Lost in an ocean of paranoia, Vladimir Putin is feeling his grip on Russia slipping. This is anathema for an authoritarian, and he needs to snatch back control over the narrative. This need, this hunger for control, has led to Putin making the dumbest decision that he has made yet. Putin has taken away the one thing that is keeping his military in Ukraine alive, and soldiers are now raging at the Kremlin. And it all comes down to two words: Telegram and WhatsApp. Putin is so lost in his paranoia that he has taken the remarkable decision to ban both of those social media services and is trying to replace them with Kremlin-approved variants being peddled by himself and his cronies. This is Putin attempting to project power, confidence. He is trying to keep his hand on the writer's pen as the story of the Ukraine war, his presidency, and Russia as a whole is written. However, this is far from confidence or power. These decisions are those made by a dictator who feels his control slipping. An aging autocrat who knows that the sharks are circling and the people are talking. But what Putin now has to fear most are the soldiers in Ukraine who have had yet more of their valuable means of communication taken away from them. We'll come back to those soldiers in just a moment. First, let's look at the interesting decisions that Putin has made over the last few days. On February 10th, CNN reported that the Kremlin had started restricting access to the Telegram messaging app, which is hands down one of the most popular apps of its kind in Russia. Per Statista, over 78% of Russia's population aged 16 or over use Telegram, with WhatsApp coming a close second with 73.9% penetration. The Kremlin made vague claims that the ban was about the protection of Russian citizens and levied accusations that Telegram itself was to blame for the block, because it allowed people a platform to share views that Russia's authorities consider criminal and terrorist. Translation: things that Russian people find on Telegram don't necessarily match the Kremlin's narrative. Telegram also faces fines from the Kremlin amounting to 64 million rubles, or about $828,000, for supposedly refusing to remove prohibited content from its app. The Kremlin's restriction came into effect on February 10th, resulting in thousands complaining that the app either wasn't working or was running much slower than it normally does. According to The Telegraph, a source close to the Kremlin has told the independent investigative outlet Vestka that the restrictions the Russians see are now laying the foundations for a full ban of Telegram that will occur in September, ahead of elections of the State Duma. With one supposed foe of the Kremlin's narrative control down, Putin turned his ire to WhatsApp. As we mentioned, WhatsApp is second only to Telegram when it comes to the most used social media apps in Russia. On February 12th, just 2 days after the sweeping Telegram restrictions came into effect, Al Jazeera reported that the Kremlin was also blocking WhatsApp amid accusations of legal breaches. Putin's favorite mouthpiece, Dmitry Peskov, claimed that the move came as a result of WhatsApp's reluctance to comply with the norms and letter of Russian law. Can we do the translation bit again? This is clearly Putin-coded wording for, "Wow, WhatsApp won't let me stop Russian people from saying things that I don't want them to say." The WhatsApp ban shouldn't come as a huge surprise. The Kremlin has been moving against the app since 2025, leading to a situation where many in Russia could only access with the help of a virtual private network or VPN by the end of the year. Similar blocks have also been put in place against Facebook, X, and Instagram, and even YouTube hasn't found itself immune from the Kremlin's blunt force approach to shutting down access to any online service that has even a shred of a chance of giving everyday Russians the ability to learn more than the Kremlin tells them. People in Russia are raging. The country's soldiers even more so. But don't worry, the Kremlin has a solution. Russia doesn't need these apps, Putin shouts from the rooftops. All they need is to subscribe to Max, which is the Russian-made and very much Kremlin-approved alternative that offers an all-in-one social media platform at the low cost of constant Kremlin surveillance of everything that you do or say on the app. Russia has been pushing Max as a patriotic alternative to the likes of Telegram and WhatsApp, and has even crossed the palms of many a Russian celebrity with rubles to get them to shill the app to their followers. Russian officials are now pushing Max to be integrated into Goslugi, which is the Russian online portal that allows people to access government platforms, pay bills and sign documents, all of which would make Max the gateway to the most basic civil service that Russia offers. It's all about control, but we'll be coming back to that later in the video. Right now, the Telegram and WhatsApp bans are wreaking havoc across the front lines. Russian soldiers are getting killed because they've lost yet another key avenue of communication. Of course, we're not hearing much from the soldiers themselves. They're getting torn up in the Ukrainian meat grinder. But only the few who survive and are captured get a chance to say their pieces. But as the Telegraph revealed, Russian military bloggers, who have often direct access to soldiers through apps like WhatsApp and Telegram, have been talking about the situation that Putin's paranoia has created on the front. Thousands of servicemen will be left without communications, which amid the ongoing offensive will lead to fatal consequences, declared the Archangel Spetsnaza channel, which has 1.1 million followers on Telegram. Another major military blogger took direct aim at the Kremlin, though he made sure not to mention Putin by name in his diatribe. When people who came to power out of nowhere start hauling them, Kremlin officials, off to the notorious Hague, no one will so much as utter a peep. Yegor Kolmogorov said to his followers in what seems to be a strange admission that Russia has been committing war crimes by a military blogger who is known for his nationalistic approach. But perhaps the clearest explanation of why Russia's soldiers are now raging at Putin comes from military correspondent Alexander Sladkov, who explains, "The West already put us in a 2-day knockout with the Starlink outage, and now they're burying this channel of command and communication too," Sladkov says. "So how exactly are we supposed to win? With what tools? Peanuts and TA-57 field phones?" One soldier who did manage to share their opinions says something similar. "The front is in shock. Starlinks are gone. Now they're jamming Telegram too. How are we supposed to fight? With carrier pigeons?" The Kyiv Independent reports the soldier is stating in a message that has circulated widely on Russian pro-war Telegram channels. We mean that's in keeping with Russia's strategy in Ukraine. Soviet-era tanks and other weapons are on the field, so why not a Soviet-era field phone like the TA-57? Putin seems to think that the Ukraine war is taking place in the 1960s after all. The mention of Starlink is worth exploring a little more. It's bad enough that Putin has snatched away 2 crucial communications platforms from his soldiers, but for some reason that can only be explained by Putin being so terrified of anything that contradicts his narrative. Russia's president has made these decisions just days after Elon Musk and SpaceX cut off Russian access to Starlink. As The Guardian reported on February 9th, Russian soldiers were already scrambling to find alternatives after SpaceX stopped them from using the illicit Starlink terminals that they had been using in Ukraine. With access to Starlink curtailed, a major communications system was lost to Russia. Putin's response? Take away the alternatives that many of Russia's soldiers have been trying to use. It's a brilliant military strategy. It's no wonder that Russia has only lost 1.25 million of its soldiers and counting so far in Ukraine. Sarcasm aside, it's almost like Putin is purposefully trying to destroy his own military with this latest move. But that isn't the real reason why the Kremlin has banned WhatsApp and restricted Telegram. In reality, these are the last gasps of an old man desperately trying to cling to power, and we'll explain why in just a moment. Before we do, you are watching The Military Show, and we bring you the full picture, not just the headlines. Hit subscribe to stay ahead of the curve. Returning to Putin's reasoning, we have 2 avenues to explore: the Kremlin's official line and what this is all really about. According to Putin's cronies, the main reason why access to WhatsApp and Telegram is being restricted comes down to security. We touched on this earlier as the Kremlin has been touting the line that both apps allow the supposed sharing of criminal content, and that they apparently can't be trusted to protect the average Russian's data more than their dear government can be with Macs. Russia's internet regulator, Roskomnadzor, has also cited security issues according to the BBC. Another Russian official, Andrei Svintov, has also been quoted as claiming that such harsh measures, against WhatsApp in particular, are absolutely justified due to Russia having apparently designated Meta as a terrorist organization. Russia has also made no secret of the fact that its crackdown on internet access is part of a wider move to shift away from what it sees as pro-Western platforms. Roskomnadzor, which is just another extension of Putin and his desire for complete control, has long crusaded for Russia to have what it calls a sovereign internet that is free from any sort of Western influence, the Telegraph reports. Again, we're harping on the point, but free from Western influence means less chance of the Russian people understanding what is really going on outside of the iron wall that Putin wants to keep them trapped behind. Still, this is all that Putin's paranoid decision is really all about. Telegram and WhatsApp have been restricted and will soon be banned because Putin needs to hide the news of what's happening in Ukraine from his people. The Kremlin wants to silence the voices of the military bloggers who, although often pro-war, still share far more information about the situation on the front lines than the Kremlin ever wants to tell its people. And it's those soldiers on the front lines who are going to suffer the most from all of this, as you'll soon learn. As the Moscow Times adds, every major Russian news outlet, including independent outlets that Putin can't control, has Telegram channels, with many publishing exclusively to the app. This has led to Telegram becoming what the outlet calls a one-stop shop for news that allows users to read news from various sources. And given that the app displays posts in chronological order, rather than using an algorithm to select what its users see, it's incredibly difficult for the Kremlin to pump its propaganda down people's throats using Telegram. So the app has to go, replaced by a Kremlin-approved variant that is a monument to Putin's digital distrust. According to Cyber Magazine, Max is set to be little more than another brick in the Kremlin's wall of state-controlled surveillance infrastructure. The app is modeled on China's WeChat app, which itself has been decried as a similar sort of tool. We guess we're seeing Putin following in the footsteps of Xi Jinping once again, unintentionally reinforcing the idea that Russia has become China's little brother in the process. The Kremlin, of course, is trying to rubbish the claims that the switch to Max has anything to do with surveillance or control over news outlets. Don't worry about it, the Kremlin says. Just because Putin has made using Max a requirement for public servants, students, teachers, and will soon make it essential to access even the most basic of public services, that doesn't make it a surveillance app. Banning any competitor, and two well-established ones in Telegram and WhatsApp, doesn't really support the story. This is really another attempt by Putin to digitally isolate the Russian people so that he can force them to fester in the false news and propaganda that helps to keep Putin in power. WhatsApp made that 100% clear in a statement that it released in the wake of Putin's decision. Today, the Russian government attempted to fully block WhatsApp in an effort to drive people to a state-owned surveillance app. Trying to isolate over 100 million users from private and secure communication is a backwards step and can only lead to less safety for people in Russia, the company said. This is no overstatement. On Max, a complaint about the Kremlin could lead to the FSB knocking on your door. It could lead to being labeled as some sort of terrorist for the massive crime of not bowing down to Putin quite as far as he wants you to. But as painfully and potentially dangerous as Putin's latest attempt to maintain his hold on a country that is falling out of his grip is to the average Russian person, it's the soldiers on the front lines in Ukraine who are going to suffer the most. There's a reason why they're raging at the Kremlin right now. Several reasons, in fact. Starting with how this is yet another way that the Kremlin has utterly failed its soldiers on the communication front. Putin's cannon fodder soldiers have been reduced to using things like Telegram, WhatsApp, and illicit Starlink terminals because the Kremlin has utterly failed to provide them with any other sorts of secure means of communication in Ukraine. Russia's soldiers have been fighting in Ukraine for almost 4 years, and yet, as the Telegraph reports, they still have not been given any sort of domestically produced and secure system that they can use for communication. That's why Telegram and WhatsApp usage exploded on the front lines. At least the latter in particular has some form of encryption, whereas the former gives Russia's soldiers a link back home, along with a means to communicate with each other when they're sent on suicidal assaults against Ukraine's defenses. Now, all of that has gone. And the shoddy Max app isn't going to be a good replacement, as Russia's soldiers know that the Kremlin will be monitoring everything that they say and do. Communication in the Russian ranks has fallen off a cliff, and it's getting Russian soldiers killed. Forces News highlights that, noting that members of Russian anti-drone units have already made video appeals to the Kremlin, stating that Telegram was absolutely vital to their work. It just so happens that drones are the biggest threat that Russia's soldiers face in Ukraine. In January alone, Ukraine's drones killed 30,000 Russian soldiers, with all of those deaths being verified via footage uploaded to Ukraine's Delta system. With Telegram gone, Russia's anti-drone units can't instantly alert soldiers in the field to the presence of Ukraine's drones, which will only lead to the inevitable. More Russian troops die. Putin has placed his own army on the fast track to helping Ukraine achieve its goal of destroying 50,000 Russian soldiers per month. This drone problem exists in Russia too. It's no secret that Ukraine's long-range drones have wreaked havoc on Russia's oil industry and have systematically degraded Russian military strength from the inside. As Vyacheslav Gladkov, who is the regional governor of the Belgorod border region in Russia, puts it, slowing Telegram channels could affect the delivery of operational information. This is a Russian official telling the Kremlin that what it's doing is going to hurt Russia's military and its people, and Putin doesn't care. He just wants more control. And cannon fodder can go to hell as far as he's concerned. There's another aspect of the Telegram and WhatsApp bans that could end up killing Russian soldiers, albeit in a less direct way than making them more vulnerable to Ukraine's drones, because they can't communicate anymore. As Forces News points out, Telegram is one of the main platforms that Russian soldiers use to communicate with their friends and family back home. With the app being blocked, a morale crisis on top of the one that already exists in Russia's military is brewing. That's especially the case when you realize that apps like Telegram are also used by Russia's soldiers to get their hands on equipment that their own government has failed to provide them. As the Kyiv Post notes, Russian soldiers have to crowdfund to get their hands on basic supplies and, in some cases, equipment that they need to do their jobs. How do you think these crowdfunding campaigns are organized? Telegram, of course. The same military bloggers who are now lambasting the Kremlin for its decision are often the people who are organizing fundraising campaigns to provide Putin's soldiers with the things that Putin doesn't give them. Banning Telegram ruins all of that. Soldiers won't be able to tell the military bloggers what they need. With Telegram being blocked and eventually banned, those bloggers won't be able to appeal to as wide an audience to raise the funds. It all adds up to more death. Poorly equipped soldiers are being sent into drone-infested hellscapes with no means of communicating with anybody. This is horror on a scale that only Putin can inflict, and he's causing it to his own soldiers rather than Ukraine. Russia's military has no food, no water, and it's filled with soldiers who, as United 24 media reports, are now darkly joking about how their clothes hang off them like they're clothes hangers because they're not getting anything to eat or drink. And now Putin has taken away one of the few resources they had to get things they need. As the Telegraph quotes one Russian military blogger as stating sarcastically, "Unfortunately, we can't shut off Starlink for the Ukrainians, but we can shut off Telegram for the Russians." Peskov, speaking on Putin's behalf, has tried to rally against all of these claims of Telegram and WhatsApp being essential to Russian soldiers. "I don't think it's possible to conceive that frontline communication is managed through Telegram or any other messenger," he weakly claimed, as Russia's own soldiers, along with the country's military bloggers, said the exact opposite. Telegram was used, WhatsApp was used, Starlink was used. They're all being stripped away to be replaced by a state-run service that is more about surveillance than it is communication. Maybe using carrier pigeons and Soviet-era field phones isn't such a bad idea after all. It's not like Russia's soldiers have anything else that they can turn to after Putin's paranoia has snatched away the one thing that is keeping them alive as they face the horrors of the war that Putin himself started. It's almost starting to feel like Putin is trying to lose the Ukraine war. In a war that has been defined by an innovation race, Russia's president is trying to send his soldiers back to the Stone Age. Ukraine's drone-infested kill zones are forcing Russia to pay for every inch of territory they take with blood, and more of the red stuff will be spilled now that Telegram and WhatsApp are gone. Find out more about these kill zones and Ukraine's brilliant tactics in our video. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to The Military Show to see more coverage of the deluded mistakes that Putin is making that cripple his own war machine. And thank you for watching.